Welcome back, folks, to Investor Diaries. Astra Space has gotten a lot of attention recently, having gone public through a special purpose acquisition company or SPAC. The company's quickly become a hot trading opportunity in the growing space sector. However, Astra Space stock recently plummeted following the report by the market analyst Kerrisdale Capital, which is a short seller of Astra Space.
The report contained various scathing allegations about Astra and has disputed or called out Astra directly in its vision to be a major player in the space industry. So what is this report all about? How did Astra respond to it? Does it even make sense? Should we buy, hold, or sell Astra stocks? Let's find out in this video.
Kerrisdale Capital is a private investment manager that focuses on value and special situation investments. Now, Kerrisdale Capital has come up with an extensive 26-page scathing report in which it has covered everything that's wrong with Astra and why they believe that Astra has a bleak future ahead of them.
So what is the short seller report all about? In the report, they start with, and I quote, "We are short shares of Astra Space, a $2 billion space launch company formed at the peak of 2021 SPAC bubble with no revenue, no track record of reliability, and no established market for its undersized vehicle. A stock story that's yet another example of the questionable businesses going public via SPACs. Astra faces massive obstacles in its quest to develop a viable business model." So we at Investor Diaries went through the report and we've summarized the report in 10 key points. Number one, Kerrisdale remains incredibly skeptical about the company. Among other things, this includes the use of cheap, non-aerospace grade parts, as well as rockets that are not reusable.
Two, to start off, 91.2 million shares of Astra stock were to be unlocked a day after the short seller report came out. Now, Kerrisdale added that this figure is twice the current float and may imply further downside risk and volatility. That means that insiders will be able to sell hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stock, something that could send the share price further tanking.
Number three, Astra's projected fiscal 2021 EBITDA guidance has decreased by 35% since the beginning of the year.
Four, it was expected that the cash from SPAC transaction could fund Astra till 2025. Now, the cash is only expected to fund the company till 2023.
Fifth, Astra has yet to reach profitability and has only successfully launched one rocket into orbit after 6 previous failures.
Sixth, the company's financial projections for 2024 and 2025 rely on 165 and 300 rocket launches, respectively. Now, for context, 300 launches is almost triple the number of global launches in 2020.
7. When asked about Astra's projected 2025 rocket launches, an anonymous senior engineer at the launch broker said, "I laugh at that number. There's no way they're going to do 300 launches by 2025. By 2035, it would still be a stretch."
Eighth, Astra uses off-the-shelf commercial parts to design its rockets, unlike its competitors who use reusable parts that decrease expenses over the longer period of time.
9. Competitors like Firefly Inc., Rocket Lab, and Relativity all have plans to produce 1,000-kilogram rockets in the near term. Meanwhile, Astra has plans to create a 500 kg rocket 2 years from now.
And finally, 10th, Astra is Kerrisdale's second space shot in 2021. This hedge fund published a short report on Virgin Galactic earlier this year. Shares of Virgin Galactic are down 60% ever since.
Clearly, the stock has been on a downward spiral ever since the short seller report came out. And in fact, it has almost halved by now.
Yeah, so Nitish, interestingly enough, no one from Astra has made a single comment on the short report because it can mean one of two things. A, that the executives are too busy with the launch and they do not want anything else in the form of disturbance or outside news. Or second, they find the report so absurd that they do not think it's worth their time to comment on the report.
So now, folks, what is the bull case for Astra? The commercial long case is You expect there to be a market for many hundreds of small launches a year, and you expect Astra's technology to pan out. They are the only small launch provider with a commercial plan that makes sense. The other long case, in our opinion, is NASA or the military want the capability enough to be able to continue bankrolling it.
So from our perspective, think about it this way. Why would Chris Kemp, the CEO, leave a chief technology officer job at NASA to start Astra when he knows very well that the business is, say, dependent on demand? We can keep looking at the other people in the team as well. So let's look at the other co-founder, Adam London, who's the CTO. He's actually invented miniature rocket technologies in partnerships with NASA and DARPA. Why would he get involved with the mission of Astra if he knew that it was doomed to fail?
That's right, Appy. And then there are other folks as well in the management team. Benjamin Leon leads Astra engineering, manufacturing, and launch and test operations. He previously spent 2 decades designing and manufacturing hardware at Apple. There are others as well in the management team, such as Martin Attic, who came from BlackRock, Bryson Gentle from SpaceX. So it's fair to conclude that the management team is fairly competent and has years of experience in the space.
And one of the major themes emanating out of the report is the demand, whether there will be demand for 300 launches every single year. So let's look at some of the responses of Chris Kemp, or rather, these are some of the statements that Chris Kemp had made much earlier.
Chris Kemp said this, and I quote, "What this looks like in terms of numbers, we've seen the numbers of satellites increase exponentially over time from tens to hundreds to thousands, and now tens and thousands of satellites that are planning on being launched. These are not hypothetical numbers. These are numbers of known satellites that we know because FCC licenses have been filed to deploy these constellations in the next couple of years. And these aren't just unknown companies. They're companies like Amazon, OneWeb, and others that have the resources to really build these kinds of capabilities out in the years ahead." So let's do some analysis very quickly at a very high level and look at their track record.
So in January 2013, Kerrisdale Capital shorted Mellanox. At that point of time, its stock price was $42 and it rose to above $120. So about 200% increase.
In Jan 2014, ServiceNow. The stock price was $55 in 2014, and it has now risen to about $500 in 2022.
BOFI Holdings is what they shorted in April 2015. Now the stock price is up more than 150% in 6 years.
In June 2015, they came out with a short report on Five Below. The stock is now up 500% in 6 years.
In the past, they've also shorted Sage Therapeutics. Just look at the graph. The stocks run so much. We can actually go over the other companies that they have spoken about or brought out a short report. We are not taking the report very seriously. Instead, we are focusing on what Astra says it will do and whether it will be able to accomplish all of its promises.
So we have a very simple way of analyzing the whole situation. We see the potential of Astra coming up in 2 different ways. One, successful launch. This is a non-negotiable parameter. As Astra continues to produce more and more successful launches, it'll continue to build its capability in launching rockets. Second, demand and more details around it on the next earnings call. This will go a long way in reassuring investors.
Astra announced that it plans to deploy its first satellite in orbit for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, that is NASA, in Jan of 2022. The launch from Cape Canaveral will be conducted out of Space Launch Complex 46. So you can clearly see that Astra is not sitting on its laurels after its first successful launch a couple of months back. Instead, it is focusing on launching again from a different place other than Alaska.
Yeah, and we at Investor Diaries have been a huge proponent of Astra, and we still stand by the company. We do believe that Astra has a very bright future ahead of it, and the report, at least at certain points, is clearly misleading.
We would be actually buying the dip to invest more and more into Astra because we clearly believe in the vision of the company, and we quite like the way that Chris Kemp is running the company.
That's right, folks. We're going to use this dip as a buying opportunity and buy more into Astra. So that's a wrap for today, folks. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And please let us know your thoughts and comments on the video in the comments below. Until next time, stay tuned and stay focused.